The age-old quandary of the tourist town is this. For a few months, there are tons of jobs to serve the tourists. But for the rest of the year, all those jobs disappear. Locals need year-round jobs. So who takes those seasonal ones? The ones that drive the tourism economy? Increasingly, it's international students who come to the United States on a special visa. We explain on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Morja Wealth Management, serving the North Country for 3 generations. MorjaWM.com. Advisory services offered through Hightower Advisors, LLC. Securities are offered through Hightower Securities, LLC, member FINRA, SIPC. And Kinney Drugs, now accepting S3 Nations benefits and OTC Network Wellness benefit cards for eligible over-the-counter health items. Details at KinneyDrugs.com.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Tuesday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. First up, lawmakers are continuing discussions on the state budget, which is now more than a month late. Leaders say one item being discussed is rebates for soaring utility costs. In its budget proposal, the Assembly floated rebate checks of up to $500, depending on income. That would total $2.6 billion. Governor Kathy Hochul says the idea is under consideration as families deal with rising costs. But she says she's wary of adding too much more to the budget,
creating unbelievable pressure on our families and our businesses. So we're going to do what we can, but within the confines of a rational budget. We also have to manage our budget.
Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins has also said the rebate idea is under discussion. Lawmakers have so far passed 9 budget extenders and are poised to pass a 10th tomorrow. Hochul's approval rating is down, but her lead over her Republican opponent has increased. That's according to the latest Siena University poll out this morning. Hochul has a 6-point lead over Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman, 3 points higher than last month. But Blakeman says the governor's actions suggest the race is tighter.
Attacking a Republican in April with $1 million in attack ads only indicates that she's scared to death of me because I'm gaining ground.
41% of voters in the poll said they have a favorable view of the Democratic governor. That's down from 45% last month. In the weeks leading up to Memorial Day, Adirondack hotels and restaurants gear up for peak tourism season, with millions of visitors expected. And to meet that demand, many local businesses turn to foreign-born employees for extra support. The seasonal workers are students working under what's known as a J-1 visa. David Escobar takes a look at how that federal program works and how it became so common in the Adirondacks.
When Andrew Wybrick's family bought the Mirror Lake Inn in 1977, the property was just a handful of small cottages. But the 1980 Winter Olympics transformed Lake Placid. Property values went through the roof. Tourism exploded. Wybrick's family business turned into a 120-room hotel, and they struggled to find locals to staff it.
The dynamics in Lake Placid changed a bit in terms of workforce housing. The housing supply became more limited. Our staff started coming from farther.
So Wybrick says the hotel started recruiting workers from all over the North Country, places like Plattsburgh, Malone, and further west. But as tourism grew, he says the industry hit a breaking point. So in the late 90s, the hotel tried something new, bringing in college students from other countries through the federal J-1 summer work and travel program.
And the relationship was really, it was out of need. It was never something that we sought to do. We'd love to hire local, but it's just not a reality.
Today, the Mirror Lake Inn employs around 30 J-1 students. Across the Adirondacks, more than 1,000 J-1 students work in restaurants, camps, and amusement parks each summer. They come from dozens of countries spanning Eastern Europe, the Caribbean, and Central Asia. Students work with sponsoring agencies to be matched with employers, then apply for visas through the State Department before traveling to the U.S. Down Main Street from Wybrick's Inn, the Golden Arrow Lakeside Resort brings in about 80 J-1 students every year.
It's made our business better.
That's Andrea Holderried, who runs operations for the hotel, which has been in the family for 3 generations. Before turning to J-1 students, Holderried says the Golden Arrow tried to fill out its staff with locals, but there simply weren't enough workers.
I've definitely heard people locally say you should be giving those jobs to local people. My reply is, well, obviously we would love to, but it's really hard to find quality people that show up to work on time, that want to work 40 hours, that want to stay in this job for 2+ years.
And it's not just Lake Placid. Since taking off in the 1990s, the J-1 Summer Work and Travel Program has expanded across tourist regions nationwide, especially in places with small year-round populations. Cornell University professor Dave Sherwin says it's part of a broader shift he's seen in the American hospitality industry.
In the 70s, 80s, college kids in the summer worked in resorts. They waited tables, they worked on athletic staff, they did stuff like that. And a lot of that changed in the mid-'80s and then beyond.
Sherwin says fewer young Americans are taking those kinds of jobs, especially in rural communities. He also says more and more U.S. college students have started looking for internships or jobs that take them away from home. Sherwin says that's left a void for businesses in need of summer workers.
The reality is there isn't another source of labor for these folks. You need people who are ready, willing, and able to work hard for 4 months.
Most college students aren't even available to work that long. That reality is especially clear in tourism hubs like Old Forge, which only has around 500 full-time residents but sees over 20,000 visitors each summer. Brandy Weiler manages HR for the Enchanted Water Safari in Old Forge. About a quarter of the park staff are J-1 students.
To get an additional 100 employees every year is almost unrealistic, especially for us where we are. Let's face it, we're on the way to nowhere. So that definitely plays a huge part in it.
Lake George Regional Chamber of Commerce Executive Director Gina Mincer says her community, with just 65,000 residents across the county, faces a similar dilemma.
Our population swells to about 250,000 people. Just think about if you've got 7,000 rooms and 5,000 campsites, we just don't have the local workforce for that.
Mincer says Lake George has grown into one of the state's most popular destinations for J-1 students. Around 1,000 come every summer. But she says even businesses that don't employ J-1 students bank on the population surge they bring each summer.
This workforce is very important to us economically because they come here, they make money, they spend money while they're here, they're subsidizing their own housing, they're paying for housing, they're getting on the bus and going to Walmart and buying groceries, and so they become part of our resident population.
But how many of these workers actually arrive each summer depends on federal guidelines. During the COVID pandemic, travel restrictions drove J-1 visa numbers down by nearly 70%. Overall numbers have rebounded since, but under the Trump administration, the number of J-1 students coming to New York fell 5% last year, and this year's numbers could dip even further. That's concerning for Mark Overman, who leads a cultural exchange advocacy group called the Alliance for International Exchange.
That is definitely going to have a detrimental impact on tourist communities. Fundamentally, they just won't have the number of students coming to their businesses that they were expecting.
Overman says the State Department's new visa vetting process introduced last summer has created a backlog. He says there's been some momentum to speed up visa applications, but he's not sure how it'll ultimately play out.
All of that said, of course, we're still dealing with an approach to visas and international engagement by and large that is really challenging right now.
As businesses across the Adirondacks gear up for the summer rush, the Mirror Lake Inn's Andrew Wybrick says even a small drop in J-1 students could be devastating for the hospitality industry.
There would be some really difficult decisions that would have to be made. It would hurt the local economy greatly, and I would expect that there would be businesses that wouldn't survive it.
In places built on summer tourism, Wybrick says the number of J-1 students who arrive could shape the entire season. David Escobar, North Country Public Radio.
David Escobar is a Report for America Corps member. He reports on diversity issues in the Adirondacks through a partnership between North Country Public Radio and Adirondack Explorer. We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Eddie Lawrence of Saranac Lake and Tim Ellifritz of Johnsburg. I'm David Sommerstein, North Country Public Radio.